It was the voice of his sister Lu King. Lu Shang could imagine looking his current expression outside the door. Tohi's room, there was a trace of impatience. Within the coldness looking he had always despised him as a brother. Lu Zheng was about to turn 18 this year, but his blood chi value was still 0.8 declineto 0.78. In the past few days combat power index and practical combat class results were also a complete mess. His total grades were notably below average, even within behind number 3. Middle school, which was already considered as a subpar establishment within Bahai City with such grades. Lu Chang's college entrance exam score wouldn't be enough for even an undergraduate line, but looking he was different. She had just turned 16 this year, but her last blood chi value test had already exceeded 1.0. Her combat power index was over 100 and she was also very talented in practical combat. She currently attends the best high school #1 for geniuses in Bahai City. Following this trend, it would be possible for her to get a scholarship for a major martial arts university in 2 years. To sum up in one sentence, Lu King, he is a prodigy with extraordinary talent. Compared to looking, Lu Shang was as mediocre as trash, the cliché combo of a mediocre brother and a genius sister. Although the Lu family didn't favor one child more than the other based on the difference in martial arts talent, Lu Xing felt that this was exactly the reason why he and Luke and he have always had a bad relationship. Perhaps in looking he shared, if there wasn't the burden of her mediocre brother, she could have gotten all the family resources poured into her right now, and she could have reached an even greater level. Got it be right there, Lu Xing answered, and the knocking outside came to an immediate stop. At that moment, Lu Shang also regained his lucidity. Andy became aware that he had just experienced another nightmare, but unlike in the past, this time after the nightmare, Lu Shang didn't feel any sense of discomfort anywhere. Instead, his physical condition was unexpectedly good. No sense of fatigue, no drowsiness. My whole body feels like it's full of energy. Lu Shang was a little surprised. Tried to remember everything he had experienced in the dream. A few moments later, Lu Xing was shocked. All those memories that I got from the zombies, I still remember them all vividly. The numerous combat skills that I inherited are all still deeply engraved into my muscle memory, so much so that Lu Shang swung his fist in the air. Even my strength feels like it has increased. This was especially unbelievable. It should be noted that strength stems from the chi. The increase in physical strength would inevitably be a result of a rise in chi. If Lu Shang felt that his strength had increased, would that mean his blood chi value had also increased? The blood chi value can be increased like this through dreams. Unbelievable. Lu Xing couldn't believe it, doubting that these were all just his own delusions. Naturally, the most direct way to verify whether it was real or not would be to go and do a full physical test. Let's eat first, then I'll go and find a martial arts training center to test it. Lu Shang quickly calmed down his excitement, cleaned up a bit, then walked out of his room. In his 2 lives, the only thing that made Lu Shang better than his peers would probably be his calm and steady mindset. Lu Xing buried his head and gulped rice into his mouth as if he had been starving for days. As he picked up the empty bowl, he ate clean, handing it to his mother Zhang Yufan to ask for another bowl. He suddenly noticed that the 3 people at the dinner table were looking at him in a strange way. Only then did Lu Chang realize that the amount of food he ate today does indeed seem to be excessive. Forget it, I'm foolish. Hesitated for a moment and was about to take the ball back, but it was snatched away by Ludahai. What do you mean? How can you stay hungry at home? Wife, please go and cook another pot of rice and stir fry 2 more dishes. Mother Zhang Yufan nodded and then stood. Yupan left. Ludahi looked rather pleased, looking at Lu Shang with a smile as he said, boys tend to be like this. When they are growing, they never feel full no matter how much they eat. The head goes up. I will go out and buy some pills tomorrow. The development period is a great time to increase the blood chi value. Don't waste it. Lu Chang nodded his head. How much can it be increased? He'll be 18 soon. Next to him looking, he shoved a piece of roasted pork into her mouth, chewing it while making a disdainful noise. Ludahi glared at her and said, and keep discouraging your brother. Being able to increase by even a little is a good thing. Those who graduate from Wuhan University with an undergraduate degree and a junior college degree are treated completely differently. Lu Qingyi skewed her lips but didn't say anything. Lu Kang kept silent. To be honest, the amount of food he ate this evening was a shock to even himself. He'd 7 bowls of rice and still didn't feel full. Mind the fact that looking usually only eats 5 bowls of rice, and looking his blood chi value was higher than Lu Chang's by a whole 0.2, and she consistently ate twice as much as Lu Chang. Maybe the blood chi value has really increased and it isn't just mid-illusions. Lu Chang secretly thought in his mind. Mother Zhang Yufan quickly stir-fried another 2 meat dishes and served them up. Lu Kang ate 2 more bowls of rice, then said a quick goodbye to his family and directly headed out the door. He couldn't wait to test his current values in all aspects. Shanchuan Martial Arts Hall. Lu Shang arrived at his destination following the navigation on his phone, stopping in front of the Martial Arts Hall closest to his home. The Martial Arts Hall wasn't very big, Even the decor was nothing special, it was just an ordinary private martial arts hall. The owner of this martial arts hall, Anai Hongchuan, is a level 4 martial artist who specializes in traditional fist techniques and Heelso, was one of the top 10 in the 23 annual Baha'i City Martial Arts Conference. The martial arts hall had an enrollment advertisement posted on the door that Luke Hang noticed the words level 4 martial artist on the advertisement caught Lushing's attention based on the standards released by the Global Martial Union. A martial artist with a peak blood chi value of more than 200 in a combat power index of more than 100,000 would qualify as a level 4. His blood chi value is 200 times higher than mine, while the combat power index is 100 times higher than mine. Lu Shangri compared himself to an Ai Hanchuan in his head and got an exaggerated result. As the martial arts level increases, the difficulty to reach the next level also increases. Level 4 martial artists, even in the entire Baha'i City, are regarded as a group of experts with dignified status. Therefore, it seemed that this martial arts hall had a long heritage, but it had nothing to do with Luke Hang. He couldn't even afford the fees written on the enrollment advertisement. Martial arts students from ordinary families are already barely able to maintain the supplements needed for daily martial arts practice, let alone enrolling in extracurricular classes to learn fist techniques to improve their combat level. That is the privilege that only the children of wealthy families are entitled to. For the children of ordinary families, building a foundation step by step and working hard to improve their blood chi value would be enough. If Luking, he asks, the family will probably give her the money. I forget it. Besides, since I can absorb memories and martial arts from the zombies in the dreams, I didn't really need such training. Lu Shang thought. Striding into the Hanchuan martial arts hall, at the front door of the martial arts school was a reception desk. The receptionist was a girl of around 20 years old, appearing quite beautiful. Seeing Lu Cheng, the girl quickly put on a professional smile and took the initiative to greet him. Is this student here to enroll in our martial arts hall's martial arts training classes? Lu Shang shook his head. No, I'm here to test my blood chi value and combat power index. Generally, martial arts halls provide such assessment services, the results of which are similar to those in schools, and the cost also isn't too high. The receptionist girl swept a glance at the school uniform Lu Shang was wearing, gave a nod, then said, all right, please wait a moment. Based on her discernment, she could naturally see that Luxing was one of those kids from an ordinary family, saw there would be no point in wasting her time on him. Go down the hallway and proceed to room 8. There are devices for the test inside. Do you know how to operate them, or do you need me to get someone to help you? The receptionist girl had a fairly good attitude and didn't look down on Lu Kang. Lu Shang stated that he could then took the rental card given by the receptionist girl and followed her directions to the specialized testing room. The device for testing the blood chi value was somewhat similar to a printer with a small notch at the bottom and a disposable sterile sampling needle placed next to it. Luxingapin, the sampling needle, took a little blood from the tip of his left middle finger and then put it in the notch on the device. A faint blue light appeared in the crimson blood. Then the device emitted a soft beep sound and a value popped up on the device's screen, 0.963. The blood chi value was accuratito, the last 3 decimal digits. When Lu Shang saw the value, he couldn't help but clench his fist firmly. Even Thuff had already anticipated it. The blood chi value had really increased, and the increase wasn't small. It went up by 0.18, nearly 0.2. Moreover, this was only the result of him hunting 3 zombies in his dream. This proves that everything I obtained in that dream can really be brought to reality. This is no longer just a game of killing monsters and leveling up. Instead, it's true cultivation. Lu Shang held back his excitement. Nobody would be willing to be mediocre, especially him who had already lived a mediocre life. Now that he finally saw a glimpse of hope that could allow him Tashin in the martial arts world, how could he not be excited and delighted? Let's measure the combat power index now. The device for testing combat power was much bigger, almost as tall as a person, and in the middle of the device was a padded groove. The test only required punching hard at the groove. The memory soft, the uniform zombie contained techniques for punching. Let's give it a try. Luxing wasn't sure how strong those 2 jumpsuit zombies he killed were when they were alive, but they were definitely stronger than the current him, and the skills and experience they had accumulated through numerous hard training and battles during their lifetime were undoubtedly an even greater treasure to the current him. Lu Shang took a deep breath, and his right arm muscles followed the trajectory of the techniques in his memory, and he threw a ferocious punch at force measuring device. Boom! A number popped up on the force measuring device, 113. The combat power index had reached 113. It had already exceeded the standard combat power index as represented by his 0.96 blood chi value. This should be the bonus of the skill. Then Lu Shang tested punching with his left arm as well. The value was a little less than his right arm, but it was also over 100. After several tests, Lu Shang finally pulled back his punches with satisfaction. Last year, the undergraduate martial arts scoreline in Baha'i City for blood chi value was 1.0. 5 and the combat power index was 105. In other words, now I have almost reached the standard for the undergraduate line. Even if I can't enter the dream anymore, I will be able to safely enter any of the number 2 martial arts university after the college entrance exam in just 200 days. Naturally, Lu Chang's current ambition didn't stop there. The standard blood kivalu of an official level 1 martial artist is 1.5 and the standard combat power index is 150. Luxing's goal is to become an official level 1 martial artist recognized by the Global Martial Union before the college entrance exams. The benefits official martial artists receive are just too good. Even if you do practically nothing every month, you can still receive several thousand yuan in subsidy from the martial union. Being a level 1 martial artist is also the requirement for many high-paying professions. If I can reach the standard of a level 1 martial artist before the college entrance exam, I may even be able to enter a major martial arts university, and after studying for a few years, no matter whether it's teaching at a martial arts school or applying to be an officer, all of them have a promising future. At this moment, Lu Shang keenly felt just how bright his road ahead had become, and all of this was due to a dream that he had just a few hours ago. After the test, Lu Shang paid a fee of 100 yuan, and then quickly returned home. He couldn't wait to enter the dream world again and explore it. I actually can't fall asleep. Lu Chang sat up from his bed, slightly bewildered, scratching his head. With a frustrated expression, perhaps due to having eaten an excessive amount at dinner, as well as the increase in blood chi value. Luxing's current mental state was surprisingly good. His mind was clear, and he didn't feel sleep in the slightest. It's only 7 o'clock, it's way too early to go to bed. Forget it, let's do some exercise first, and when me body is tired, I'll naturally fall asleep. Lu Chang looked at the time and eventually decided to do some pre-bedtime exercise. The exercise was naturally the 24 forms of body refining, which he called the 13th set of radio exercise. It just so happens that my blood chi value has increased a lot, and it needs to be consolidated. Scientific research has shown that the human body's blood chi value is not constant. It has a peak and a plateau point. When you exercise vigorously or take pills, the blood chi value will peak temporarily, and when you are resting or are sick or injured, the blood chi value will decline to the bottom. Therefore, martial artists generally need to perform a series of high-intensity exercises after taking pills to ensure a permanent increase in blood chi value. In order to maximize the effectiveness of the pills, it was considered common sense. Lu Chang's blood chi value had increased by a whole 0.18 today, so appropriate exercise was essential. 1st form. Lu Kang followed the 24 forms of body refining that he had done countless times on the yoga mat and started practicing late at night. PRN, according to the author, 7 p.m. is a time late at night to practice, but still too early to go to bed. But not long after the practice, Lu Shang felt that something was wrong. Wait, how can I perform movements like this? Luxing suddenly stopped his movements with a slightly strange expression. He had been practicing the 13th version of the 24 forms of body refining technique released by the Martial Union since elementary school. Having practiced for more than 7 years, it had become almost instinctive, and he could do the movements even with his eyes closed. Although it wasn't at the standard, at least it wasn't wrong, but just now he distinctly felt himself subconsciously performing a different set of movements. And that set of movements was something had never learned before. I see. Lu Shang quickly understood what was wrong, had absorbed the memories of martial arts from the 2 uniform zombies, and alongside their combat skills and experience, he had also inherited the memories of their practice, and what he had just performed was the body refining technique that the 2 uniform zombies had practiced repeatedly during their lives. The body refining technique of the uniform zombies before they died are completely different from the ones of practice now. With curiosity in mind, Lu Shang decided to practice the body refining technique from the memories of the 2 uniform zombies. The movements are considerably larger than the body refining technique I practice now with over 200 forms. Some of the movements appear difficult, but with the memories I inherited from those 2 zombies, it's equivalent to having practiced it myself countless times, making it easy to perform. As for the effects, as soon as Lu Chang did one of the movements, ascertained part of his body produced a tingling sensation similar to an electric shock. The sensation was extremely pleasant, as if a wave of warmth was flowing through his body. It felt so good that he nearly let out a moan. This is going. The sensation appeared only once before, when I first attempted to perform the 24 forms of body refining. This is the second time I've felt the sensation after all these years. It was as if Lushing had discovered a whole new world. All of a sudden, he began to focus on practicing the body refining technique. At this moment, if a second person was present in the room, they would see Lu Shang's body continuously twisting into one weird movement after another. These movements were connected together with an unexpected and wonderfully harmonious sense of grace, and throughout the process, Lu Chang's body continued to tremble slightly. His body temperature kept rising. A large volume of white vapor steamed out from the surface of Ofi's body and sweat flowed down his body, nearly drenching the yoga mat underneath him. Lu Shang finally performed the last movement. His entire body collapsed on the yoga mat as if it was falling apart. However, he felt like he had never been in better shape, and his whole body had gotten a deep massage from the inside out, as if he could actually hear the muscle cells all over his body singing with joy. Grumble. Grumbly, an intense sense of hunger passed through Lucian's brain. Didn't I eat dinner just a few hours ago? PRN. Who the duck eats dinner at 6 p.m. Luching was feeling incredible. The empty stomach constantly reminded him that his body was now in dire need of energy, a lot of energy, and there was only one thing that could cause this. Luxing's blood chi value once again had increased. Unbelievable. Luxing's face was filled with amazement. He had performed the body refining technique only once, yet he was able to increase his blood chi value once again. If word of this were to get out, he would probably be immediately treated as a martial arts genius. He was certainly not a genius. Lu Shang was very clear about this. All of this was just the effect of the set of body refining technique. He had just practiced. The result of one session is better than mythen the results of a year or even years. The effect is tens or even hundreds of times that of the 24 sets body refining technique. No, it's not just the body refined lining technique, there's also breathing. I just subconsciously used a wonderful breathing technique while practicing the body refining technique, and the amalgam of the two resulted in such a terrifying effect. Lu Zeng instantly thought of some images he had once seen in the memory of the jumpsuit zombie. Breathing techniques, body refining techniques, these two things have been taught. Practice them when you eat, sleep, and even when you go to the toilet. Wonderful breathing technique, wonderful body refining technique. Lu Chang didn't exactly know the names of the breathing technique and the body refining technique practiced by the jumpsuit zombies, but he was sure that these two methods were much more advanced than the 13 set of body refining techniques that he was currently practicing, which were claimed to have been created jointly by the masters of the World Martial Alliance. It was advanced, way too advanced, so this is the real treasure of the dream world. Lu Shang clenched his fist a little harder, his gaze burning. His greatest advantage was that no matter how complicated the cultivation methods and techniques she got in the dream were, with the memories of the practitioner's life added to them, he could apply them without a threshold and very smoothly. This directly saved Lu Shang a lot of time and energy, a complete shortcut to the heavens. After a short break, Lu Shang walked out of the room looking for food that could replenish energy. The good thing was that there were still a lot of bread and fruits and other food in the refrigerator. Lu Kang had a lot of food yet barely filled his stomach, then went back to his room and started practicing the mysterious body refinement technique that contained 268 maneuvers. Lu Shang did this set of body refinement techniques 4 times in a row, and the pleasure of clearly perceiving his own growth made him almost addicted to it. At the end of the practice session, Lu Shang's body was so exhausted that it was too difficult to even move his little finger. He even created an illusion his body was like a sponge that had been wrung out countless times, completely wrung out of all the water, and collapsed limply on the yoga inside the dressing room. Lu Shang and Lu Kaiming were changing into the martial arts gear required for the actual combat class. Lu Kang, who took off shirt and pant, displayed a muscular body with clear-cut definitions and lines like that of a cheetah. He had grown slightly slimmer. This was due to the rapid rise off his BQV when being undernourished. A need to trim my hair. Luxing looked at his familiar yet unfamiliar face in the mirror. His thin and shapely eyes were deep and dark, which occasionally burst out with knife-like sharp tinge. Now even if he just stood there calmly, he would give people an inexplicable sense of shock. It made people's heart go numb, just like when ordinary people encountered tigers and leopards and other beasts in the wild. This was the result of the increase in the increase of BQV as well as the absorption of a large amount of memories in the dream, which even Lu Shang had failed to notice previously. I've also grown a bit taller. Lu Shang changed into his martial arts uniform and looked at the sleeves and trouser legs that were obviously a tiny bit shorter. His previous height was 175 centimeters in the period of cultivation. His height skyrocketed to nearly 180 centimeters. The originally fit martial arts clothing felt small now. After changing clothes, Lu Kang and Lu Kaming walked into the martial arts hall together. The entire martial arts hall was very large, which was divided into a block of padded field. Each field was equivalent to a practical combat class practice classroom. They were obviously not the only class to use the hall. His time period solutions and Lu Kaming found their own class venue and quickly walked over. Everyone sat in a circle around the edge of the field, and a middle-aged man with a robust physique and muscles that strained his loose martial arts uniform slightly stood in the middle. This is a practical combat class. I hope you have consolidated what I taught you before. The content of the basic combat techniques. The teacher of the practical combat class was named Hongan Kyo, an official level 2 martial artist who was said to have been in battle and had fought head-on with a foreign beast. The huge scar on Zhang Zhenkyo's deliberately bare right arm was Thebius proof of this. This is also his most proud possession, having boasted about it more than once to the students in class. Next, Zhang Jinkyo began to formally explain the use of various combat techniques to the students and call Thiboi up to be his sparring partner. In Liu Shang's opinion, these fighting techniques taught by Zhang Jinkyo were simple and crude, and what he learned in his dreams were far more brilliant. In many times, every time he asks Yang Yifito go up, can he not pick from the ordinary students and give them a chance? Damn it, Luxing suddenly heard a sour complaint from Lu climbing next to him. Only then did he noticed the boy who had been called up by Zhang Jinkyo to accompany him to practice combat techniques. The boy's name was In Yifei. His family was well off. His martial arts performance ranked top in the grade plus. With his handsome appearance, he had ascertained popularity, even in the school. Wearing a white martial arts uniform with Zhang Jinkyo calmly instructing him in the maneuvers, he attracted quite a bit of attention from the girl below, making their eyes peachy with delight. You can't block it even if you are given the chance. Even with the force withdrawn, Mr. Zhong's fist is not something anyone can block. Lu Shang glanced at Lukaiming and said indifferent. Lukaiming's face reddened, and he muttered, who letting Yife's family be so good? He has all kinds of tonics for his meal. He heard that his BQV has almost reached 1.2. Lukaiming looked unconvinced. Ash would be able to do better than Yin Yife if given the same environment and resources as him. In Yife, Lu Zeng did not talk to him again, just calmly watched the demonstration of Zhang Jinkyo, and on the surface it looked like he was listening carefully, but in fact Lu Shang was pondering about the details of Ofi scholarship and how he could raise the matter with the teacher. Well, the demonstration is almost done. Next, I'll call up 2 students to spar. I'll guide separately. Zhang Jinkyo ended the drill and casually greeted Yang Yife beside him. In Ife, you don't go down, find another person to practice with. You? Yes. Yang Yife was insouciant. Seemingly you said to such special treatment long ago. Is there any student who is willing to come up and have a spar with In Yife? Zhang Jinkyo asked loudly, and wherever his gaze landed, students did their best to go unnoticed or dodged his eyes. No one's. Hong Jinkyo frowned slightly, somewhat dissatisfied. Every time he talked about actual combat practice, these students scoured like ostriches and wanted to bury their heads in the ground, so how could he teach them? Many people privately talk about how he was biased towards the top students in the class. These people did not really think before passing such comments, because every time such occasions came up, except for the top students like In Yife, how many people dare to come forward to accept his guidance? Many people like to complain about the lack of opportunities, but they did not understand that the opportunity slips away because of their repeated retreat in the face of its. Hong Jinkyo swept his gaze over every student, gradually becoming disappointed in his heart. Just as he was about to order a random person up, he suddenly met a pair of dark, deep eyes. Zhang Jinkyo's lit up, and his gaze landed on a student with calm eyes and a slim body in the crowd that had avoided his case. Someone who dared to look him square in the eye suddenly appeared to be saw-striking and abrupt. Okay, that student. You come up and practice with Yin Yife. Zhang Jinkyo pointed at the distinctive student and said loudly. Lu Shang, teacher, returned from his thoughts and suddenly realized that he had been asked by Zhang Jinkyo to come up and spar with In Yife.